So you see I've got my table set up here, got plenty of rags, some oil for the knife, a bucket, and a very sharp knife. Also a cover for the table because you're gonna mess up the table. I'm going to show you guys how to harvest jackfruit. So it takes a special technique to harvest it. As you can see, the fruit is leaking latex. I'm just going to leave it for 2 or 3 days and let it ripen. But also the latex is going to leak out. So then that way it's easier to handle. Okay, so I've waited for the jackfruit to kind of ooze out for a couple days, and now it looks a little browner and just, it smells very fruity, so you know that it's time to cut. Before you cut, the most important thing is to grab your oil and lubricate your hands. If you don't do this step, you're gonna have jackfruit on you for weeks. It's really hard to get off. So lubricate your hands and then lubricate your very sharp knife because it'll also stick to your knife. And we're ready to cut. I'm gonna start, see, sometimes the stem you can just pull it off. This one, not quite so much. So we'll just start by cutting it in half to make it a little bit more manageable. Alright, so the knife kind of just slides through. If it's too green, you would not be able to do this. So you'll have to wait a little longer. And the idea is not to cut it before it's ripe, because then you've wasted an entire jackfruit. Alright, beautiful. This is what you want your jackfruit to look like on the inside. If it doesn't have this beautiful yellow color here, it's not ready, right? This is a pretty good jackfruit. You can see the seeds are quite large. Something else I'd like to point out is in the middle of the jackfruit right here, there's a core, right? The stem comes out through the core. So this core, you're not gonna wanna eat this core. So when you cut the jackfruit, you wanna cut around the core. Okay, so here we go. So here's a nice piece. You can see these huge seeds. You can start taking these out. Okay, when you open, look how beautiful that looks. So when you open the jackfruit, there's a couple parts, right? The stringy parts don't have as much flavor as the bright yellow parts. It's the area that's covering the seed, right? So that's the one that you want to make your smoothies out of. You want to eat just like this. It's very flavorful, very sweet, delicious. This is like the gold part, right? But when I was living in Indonesia, they don't waste anything. So something that one of the ladies I stayed with taught me was after you harvest the outside of it, you can go ahead and take your scissors and trim the fibrous part and use that as well. It's not gonna taste the same. However, the texture's really fun. So if you're like a vegan or a vegetarian and you miss stuff like pulled pork sandwiches or something like that, this is a perfect substitute for that. So this is gonna have the sweet flavor, and then the leftover part is just very stringy and fibrous. My friend Megan sent me a pulled pork but jackfruit recipe, and it was delicious. Serve it to like meat eaters. They may not even know the difference because it just tastes like barbecue. So you give it a little trim. Do you want some? There you go. The seeds I just throw, but I did hear you can do something with the seeds, but maybe we'll just save that for next video. It's like once you go down the rabbit hole of fruit, it's like there's no return. Hey, Ginger. And then if you don't want to use this right away, you don't have to. You can freeze it and use it whenever you want. Obviously, it's a huge fruit. Like, you're gonna have a lot of it, so you may want to just freeze it. Everyone's always intimidated by jackfruit because it's, you know, like the largest fruit that grows from a tree. But once you know the thing about the oil especially, it makes things much easier. You should have seen the first time I tried to open a jackfruit. It did not go well. So those of you that are YouTubing before you do it, good choice. All right. The beauty of doing this outside is that you can just throw your junk just on the ground and let it kind of go back into the earth. I'm not sure what animals eat jackfruit, but I know that there's a couple that do because there's bites in the fruit all the time after they fall.